Hello, everyone, and welcome. This is a interview between myself and Georgia and Barium. Georgia and myself met several years ago. I think it was 2017 at the Emerald Coast Convention Center in Fort Walton, Florida. And over the last couple of years, she's kind of recircled back into my life, and she's become an amazing product tester for pretty much everything I'm releasing goes to her. She has a really good way of just allowing that flow to happen and bringing into human words. I mean, sometimes I get kind of lost in there and trying to explain what's going on because my head's in the clouds 90% of the day. What's going on, Georgia?
Not much. I'm excited to talk about your latest two products, the new 0 points that you've come out with. So we have a smaller one that you released like maybe 2 months ago, and then you have the Extreme that you've just released this past week. And so just excited to talk about that. And I'm also excited to talk about where some of your future products are going. I know you're working a lot with resin and the energies that can be created through resin and the combination of different crystals and the geometries. So I'm interested to peek behind the curtain a little bit and see how that comes to you. Like when you're working with it, does it happen in real time? Is it all downloaded? So we can get to that at the end.
Has anyone ever looked inside Santa's workshop?
Yeah.
Oh.
Got to get a little tiny look in it so you can stay excited, I guess. But no, I think it's really interesting to like you said, I've been with you for a while. I've been like working with the products for a long time, even before I was product testing. And it's interesting how each one has its own flavor, right? And they have their own purpose of being, their own reach out into this 3D realm, right? So wherever you're getting the information from, however you're getting it, it comes through at different times for different reasons. These two products I think are super interesting though, because you're doing the majority of the manufacturing. You're doing the majority of the work. So of course you always design them, but when we get the ones that have like a lot of metal and the lab grown quartz, those have to go out somewhere to be made and then brought back after the initial design. These are all super specific. I think whoever gets these, it's a grand confluence of events that brings them to being. So I think that's something that's really neat about this product compared to some of the others we've worked with.
So the further that point, um, 2025 has been a huge year for everything modern day mystic. And, I've always used cutting edge fabrication processes to have things manufactured. From the digital world, obviously, Aqua Sync 7 is coming. We're going to begin testing on that next month, and that'll be here in September, October timeframe. Um, and when, the resin kind of part of what I do has always been around. Karen LaRange is one of the only people I've ever allowed to sell products directly on the MDM site, and she's got beautiful, beautiful stuff that you can order directly through MDM site on her page. And the resin never really interested me. And back in January, February, I was kind of thinking about, okay, what can I do? How we move in this playing field? And it just kind of came in the way I interpret information. It was playing around with resin. And I had never used resin before. And once I kind of mastered the basics of it, the floodgates opened up. And the first product that we released was the a new line of pair resonators called the 0 Point. And these were put together in over about a 2 or 3 months period. And, you know, creating a design inside the resin, getting the color correct, getting the size correct, and then having the bases manufactured and brought back in-house to specific specifications was pretty challenging, especially when these hit the market a month or two ago. They were gone. I mean, they went like wildfire. And the purpose of this was, you have a plate that vibrates extremely high, and how you interpret what you put on here is typically within 33 seconds, it's vibrating at a higher level. Now, that was the goal, and we achieved it. But like everything I create, it's a toolbox, and people with that have the ability to think way outside the box, like Georgia, when she talks about hers in a minute, um, that's the kind of stuff that I absolutely love to hear about because it comes back and it goes, oh yeah. So once this was out the door and successful, I was thinking, how can we go over the top again? And then the resin started coming back in. I said, the original school of thought was I wanted to use tritium tubes. This is God's honest truth.
Oh,
Tritium
wow.
tubes inside the resin. Now, tritium is a radioactive gas that has a half-life of 10 or 15 years. And if you ever owned a watch that glows in the dark forever, that has tritium gas in it. So I had ordered some of these vials, the really bright ones, the green ones, and they came in. And then I was like, these were just beta, just testing files. I was like, what happens if this thing cracks? You can breathe it in. So I said, all right, well, maybe in resin it'll be a little bit safer. But then I started reading about shipping products with
Oh,
radioactive isotopes, man.
yeah.
And that was not a good idea. So I then kind of switched over to what can I manufacture that will complement the resin plate to allow an interaction between the two? And, I want it to be made out of, cutting edge materials. So what was born from that was the zero point extreme resin plate. And, this is a metal composite with a type of material that reacts to UV light on the blues and the reds. And then I pour resin in the middle with more reflective stuff that you can't see until you hit it with a UV light, and there'll be blue in the middle and purple on that outer ring. So, and there's also Mulivite dust and liquid alchemy in there. And those are two kind of very high vibrational materials that, in combination with all of the geometric and mystical symbols on there, create a giant powerhouse. So then we went ahead a little bit further, and I wanted to go over the top when we made the extreme. So the original plate is 4 inches by 4 inches by half an inch. This is 8 inches by 8 inches by an inch, and it's packed with an absolute ton of sacred geometry in there, different colors. When you hold this, each one is very, very different. It feels alive. It feels like you feel the vibration. It brings great joy for me to personally have a hand in the manufacturing of these. And trust me, folks, it took me quite a while to get the hands of actually, okay, well, how do I do this within resin? And the smaller ones were a precursor, but then the resin opens up a whole new field of products that are going to be coming over the next several months and probably in the years from MDM. So that was just kind of my take on it. And again, anything you put on here, it was designed to vibrate higher in 33 seconds. And some of the social media posts that I've done, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, my YouTube channel kind of shows videos that are just hopping around with really cool music and this stuff glowing in the dark, reacting off UV light. Those are just promos to get people kind of excited to what's coming. And but once this product was born and now is being delivered to people that have ordered it, the super excitement happens because I put a huge amount of intention into that resin. And if you understand energy mechanics like I do, thoughts are the most powerful forms of creation and creating positive affirmations in the world. And when you're positive about pouring something that gets solidified within the 3D with multivite dust, liquid alchemy, sacred geometry, and intention, you come up with something uber special.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think so. A little bit of my background. I've had all three of these. So originally, when you started with charging plates, right? We had the originals, and these have like the clear.
Oh,
on them. And what reason I'm pointing it out is because each of these has a very distinct vibration, a very distinct frequency, right? This one, when I worked with it, it did charge things up. It absolutely works, but it didn't necessarily feel particularly personal. Right? It didn't, it was a product. It did the job. It did exactly what I expected it to do. When I got my little one, the flavor is very different, right? When I literally opened mine up and it just had like the sweetest feeling, and my little one feels like it's for me personally. It wants the best for me. It felt like its own intelligence in a way coming through it, like its own portal for that. And then when I got the big one, very different for me. So right now I do a lot of work with groups and helping them have an experience, because I think the most important thing is that we have an experience. We can talk about things, we can explain it all day long, but until you have a real world experience, you don't own it, right? You don't own that feeling, you don't own that knowledge. So as I'm working with these groups though, and the group keeps getting bigger, which is beautiful, but it also means I need a little more support bringing in the energies in a cohesive way. And the minute I opened my larger one from you and I sat with it for just a few minutes, it was so clear, like right away, like this is for me to be able to bring in different energies and make them cohesive so that the group can function as one, which is very different than your original intention. But I know that you sent one to me to be high vibrational. You sent it to me to help me do whatever it is I want to do and accomplish whatever I want to accomplish. And since that's my goal, that's exactly what I got. But you didn't know that when you sent it to me, right? It's not like you had to know exactly everything going on in my life to create something that aligned with me so well. So I really love that. I will say years ago when I got introduced to like orgone energy and using resin, I kind of didn't play with it much. I didn't pay much attention to it. And it's only been in the last like 2, 3 years. I had somebody who made me a pyramid and I understood how powerful it can really be. So I'm excited to see where you go with the resin, right? Because you're definitely thinking outside the box. It's not just the traditional use of resin with crystals. It's just a whole new way to look at the medium and kind of push what it can do. For me, one of the coolest things about my big plate is that it works cohesively, but there's the Metatron's cube in the middle, and then you've got Flower of Life, and you've got Taurus, and you've got Merkaba on the corners. And each one of those, if I choose to, can be the point of focus, can be the place where we're putting the most energy. The other thing that I found that's true for me is how I lay it into the base does matter. So there's no, when you get it, you will not get like arrows, pointing one way or the other. You put it together however you want. But I have felt the difference when I have it with certain symbols in one direction on the plate. And then when I flip it and I do it in a different way, it feels slightly different. It's a different flavor as to what I'm getting. Again, my plate is not, in this case, just for me though. I've got a plate that's wanting to do work for like lots of people, right? And so that may not be a true experience for everybody who gets one, but that is what's happening for me. And I wanted to share that with you. And then I'm hoping at the end of this video, I'll charge mine up in the sun. You can charge your up in the sun and we can put the pictures up at the end of the video so people can see it, because they are really beautiful. And it's not just the beauty of it. There is something that's happening as it's letting go of those light particles, right? As it's releasing those light particles into the product through the UV. I can't quite name it, but something is happening and it's very cool. So I would love to be able to show that off to people, so they can maybe see the difference. Maybe they'll be able to feel it through the picture. But I have a very interesting relationship with mine. I'm super excited about it and what it's doing. I sent you a picture earlier today. Mine's actually set up with a crystal grid on top of it, and like the symbols that we've been working with in the group and that kind of thing. So I am intrigued by how much it can do, right?
so
It's not just one thing.
what's the right off the top of your head, what's blown you away the most about the larger one?
Well, for me, it's the amount of information coming through it, right? So my smaller one feels like very cohesive, like one string of consciousness that I'm working with. My bigger one to me feels like it's pulling from a lot more places of awareness and more levels of multidimensionality and more levels of consciousness. They do feel cohesive, though. It doesn't feel like it's bringing in, 12 strands that have nothing to do with each other. But that's what surprised me about mine is I feel like it's pulling in a wider range of intel and energies and then making them cohesive to work with me here. So that was a surprise.
And as a user of both products, what would you find different and beautiful about each one of them?
Well, so in a practical standpoint, size for one thing. If you travel like a whole lot and you want to take it with you all the time, the smaller one is great for taking with you so that you have that constant input. The big one is you can still travel with it, but it's a little bit big for travel. In terms of the difference for me, the simplicity, I guess. The smaller one feels simple in terms of simple relative, right? But I mean simple in terms of what it's bringing through. It's like just one super clear string strand of focus, but the complexity of the big one. So it's the amount of intel that it's gathering, and it's the complexity, the levels of detail in which it's bringing through. And that would be hard to explain, I guess, in words. You'd have to have the experience of it. But I appreciate there are many more levels going on with the extreme, right? The everything happens on multi levels. So anybody watching this might be arguing, well, everything happens that way. Yes, but I still think the big one is accessing. I would, if I had to put a number on it in percentage, I would say it's bringing in a good like 80 to 90% more than the little one in terms of the levels of intelligence, the levels of energy, and the complexity of the energy. It's a good 80 or 90 times as much. And I don't mean like, yeah, but times as much would be the right way to say it.
Maybe we'll create an extreme squared. It'll
Yeah.
be
Oh my gosh. I would have to just like dedicate a whole room to my house and like let
it'll
it
be a table
only
you
be
order.
there. Yeah, I don't know if I would be able to take that for sure. No, I think what's also interesting is I do a lot of work with sacred geometry, and I love what it has done for me over the last few years in terms of how it shows up, how I'm understanding different, how the universe goes together through math and through geometries. So you can look at life through color, sound, vibration, form, and function, right? And any of those are a way to see the whole picture. But when you start putting them all together, you're you're getting a really great in-depth sense.
What,
This
what,
product, I think, is doing some of that.
what's been interesting to me with both of these is not only the intimacy of creating the heart of a product, but when they leave the warehouse, right? Um, tuning into the customer's energy and picking, out of however many screaming, there's always one that shines the brightest, and that's the one that goes. And they are so vastly different from each other. They all do the same thing, but the one that you get is familiar. Really hard to describe, but it's familiar. And they're all kind of practically imperfect, right? Because resin is science. It's two chemical compounds that come together that create a reaction and hardens over time. And when I first started playing with this stuff, oh, it was such a mess. I had I'd pour too much. I'd walk away for an hour, come back. It's everywhere.
Resin is definitely from a crafting standpoint, because I've worked with it before. It is definitely difficult, and the thickness that you went with on the second one also adds to the complexity of the build itself, right? Because you
Oh,
have to
100%.
pour a
Yeah,
little
these
liquid
are
in at the
these
right
are these
time.
are all day projects. I mean, it's not something you can just, lay in there and then, go away for 5 hours and come back. No, you're constantly on top of it, checking it. So, this is, I mean, all the products are personal to me, but these two products are the first ones that I put an enormous amount of, love into and time into. Um, and this is the baseline for a whole new category of products um, going forward. In the pre-show, we were talking about some of those products. Some of them I really don't want to reveal, but just rest assured that there is some mind-bending stuff.
Well, he's just to let you know, because I know he doesn't want to reveal them, so I won't tell you what they are. But definitely, I think you've opened up a whole new level for yourself, for your own creativity, and for your own like way to bring through whatever humanity needs right now. And there's a very wide range of products that are coming that I think kind of use this as their baseline tech, the using the resin and the crystals. So what I'm interested in particular with these products, and I would share with everybody, is that because you did put yourself into these more, right? It's not that you haven't worked very hard on all the products you have, but these you actually have your hands on, and you're the one standing over, and you're making it happen, and you're figuring it out, and then you're the one picking it to go with the order. And so there's a whole other level, I think, of connectivity with these products. Again, hard to explain if you're just here on the video chat, but I think it's definitely worth checking into, especially if somebody sees it and in any way they're like, I really like that, or I really need that. Like, go ahead and do it. Because one, there's also going to be a limited amount, right? This is not an endless run. There's only so much Peter to go around. So we have to know that, like, these aren't endless and forever and ever. So if it's really speaking to you, I would definitely jump on that opportunity. Because also it's kind of like when you find a crystal in the store, you can buy clear quartz crystal anywhere. But sometimes you pick one up and you're just like, oh, this one's going home. And it's 4 times as much as the one down the street, but it doesn't matter because there's something about the resonance and the connection, and you just know it. And I think the same will be very true for these products.
And sometimes it's the opposite. Sometimes it's something you find, the corner store.
Yep.
It's like, wow, fell off the back, whatever.
Yeah,
Uh,
one of my best crystals is literally it's a little short, tiny crystal that I think I paid $25 for, and it's one of my most powerful crystals I own. So,
yeah, it's also been great to get back into using Moldavite again. Moldavite has always been one of my favorite stones, and in my opinion, there is nothing else out there in the world of stones that vibrates and is as mysterious as Moldavite. And the original line of Terra resonators all had huge chunks of Moldavite in them. And that stuff soon went to like $40 a gram. So they had a good 3 year run. Then they went away and was replaced by Libyan sandglass, which was alternatively a beautiful stone, gave a different vibration, but ultimately had the same characteristics that were used in many, many manifestation products to bring things into fruition. But I have a connection now back to the Czech Republic, so I can get it a little bit more expensive than originally, but not nearly as much as what it's costing. And and instead of dropping stones into here, we're grinding it into dust, and there's a certain amount of dust that goes into each pour, and as it gets mixed, it's even in there, so the energy is not extreme in the corner or like
right.
you would have there in a product. It's spread out all over. And this is the first time that I've introduced a proprietary liquid alchemy into the resin from a very, very high-end alchemist. And it's just, with the intention and the sacred geometry, it's just this product is labor of love. They're awesome.
Well, I
And
think they're fabulous, and I do think that there's a lot of people out there who will be interested and excited to see what they are. I just really recommend people take a minute before you place your order, and so that even before you've paid, you're just already connecting. You're already saying, I know that the perfect one is coming. The energy, I'm willing to accept the energy that comes in through the device and just really be mindful. I don't think I've ever recommended that on any of your other products. I've always recommended if it speaks to you, look at getting it because
Mhm.
not every product works for every person. But I think in this particular case, the more mindful people are, before they're even purchasing, even more they're going to attract. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, 100%.
Amazing things. This is the way this one just works differently. The tech in it is different, but also because the way you've worked with them, I'm trying to think of another way to let people know how different it is. I think I'll use an example. So one of my favorite devices of yours is the HFA force generators, right? And I have the little one, I have the big one. And when you hold those, you yourself feel the vortex take off. You yourself feel everything kind of getting harmonious, the right and left brain working together. But what I don't feel when I work with it, as though it is bringing me its own intelligence beyond what it does, right?
Mhm.
These are bringing me literally like other pieces of, if you'd like to say, the higher soul, or people from my spirit team, or, other levels of dimensions. And that's where it's like wildly different than the other products.
Spot on. Yeah. Yeah, great. So yeah, I just everyone, we just wanted to give you a little bit more depth from the creator and tester of this product. And of course, if you have any questions, you can always contact me through the website. And George, how can they get a hold of you?
You can get a hold of me either through Instagram at Light Energy Dancing, or you can use an email, lightenergydancing@gmail.com. So everything with my company is Light Energy Dancing.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Have a good evening, everyone.